So here's the story. New York Times. There was once a time not too long ago where you were expected to simply accept that everything was fine with Biden, everything was going great, he's just doing fine, he's as fit as a fiddle. And if you said anything to the contrary, oh, you're listening to Fox News. Oh, you're a right-wing plant. Oh, you must be listening to Rush Limbaugh. Where'd you get that from? Sean Hannity? And then what happened was that debate. I personally am starting to wonder, did CNN set Biden up? That's what I'm starting to wonder. See, MSNBC, one thing I've noticed, MSNBC hasn't, for the most part, I guess you could say, broken the ranks. MSNBC hasn't fully turned on Biden, but just about everybody else has. Chink Ugar from Young Turks. There's a lot of these media things that I can't even name because I don't listen to most of these things. I know of them, but just about everybody turned on Biden simultaneously. And you have to wonder because, see, me personally, I knew a long time ago. I was arguing with people. I was like, listen, if Biden makes the mistake of stepping into a fucking ring with Trump, this guy, that's Daniel in the lion's den levels of stupidity. The lion is there. The lion is hungry. The lion's got razor sharp teeth, razor sharp claws, and he is going to tear you apart. And CNN put this. Now, first of all, you gotta see, and it's funny because the more and more you listen to these goddamn pundits, some of these guys, they bring up decent information. A lot of them don't, but neither Trump nor Biden has been officially, how should I say, nominated yet. They haven't had the DNC convention yet. There's been no primary challenge against Biden. It was just assumed that Biden was going to be, he was going to be the person running. Trump, the same thing. He didn't show up to a single one of those Republican committee debates. Didn't show up to a single one. You had Vivek Ramaswamy. You had Nikki Haley. Who else did you have? Honestly, I can't remember. So if I can't remember anybody else's name, that's because you weren't important. I guess I could also say Ron DeSantis. But the bottom line is, they had this debate. CNN had this debate, and neither of these men have been officially nominated. So there's some people who are now pointing the finger at CNN. Oh, well, you didn't fact check. And when they say fact check, what they mean to say is that Trump is a liar. Trump is an obvious liar. We expect you to contradict every single thing he says. That's what they expect. Now, bottom line is, all of those rules that you can't speak when the lights on the mic are green. Oh, if the other guy's talking, we're going to cut away from you. We're not going to show you doing anything. We're going to make it so nobody can hear you, nobody can see you. Have you noticed that every single move that the left has made has been to silence Trump and make it so he can't speak? They think that covering this man's mouth is enough to stop this man from making a sound. It's like if there's a fire and you put a blanket over it, is that enough to stop the fire? It's like chances are no, it's not. But that's what these people think. So now that debate happened. We all saw it. So, because it used to be where they could say, oh, did you hear what Trump said? Trump said something at a rally. He said, what did he say? He said, veterans are idiots and losers and stupid and all this. And you're like, I don't think he really said that. Do you have a videotape? No, but I heard it. Did you see what happened at the rally? Trump tried to grab the steering wheel and he tried to turn the car around. And what? Wait a minute. when he's in one of those presidential vans and they're taking him somewhere, isn't there like a separation between the driver and the passenger compartment? Oh no! But he reached past that. He rolled down the window and he reached past that. He grabbed the steering wheel. Huh? What? So what you're telling me is the Secret Service agent the Secret Service agent who had to have been there with him because they were driving him and rushing him from one point to another. You're telling me that the Secret Service agent allowed him to grab the steering wheel? This is how the left has been doing us. They've been lying to us the entire time. They've been using rumor, conjecture, and lies. Rumor, conjecture, and lies. The reason why I phrase it that way is because that was actually the episode of Babylon 5 episode, and that was actually the title of it, so I like using that phrase. But the bottom line is rumor, conjecture, and lies. That's what they've been using up until now. But see, the problem was we all saw this debate. We didn't need any second-hand person to explain to us what happened. We didn't need anybody to tell us rumors about what happened at the debate. We didn't need anybody to give us conjecture about what they felt happened at the debate or what they thought happened at the debate. We saw it. I'm willing to bet many people who saw Biden standing there with that dazed, confused, lost look in his eyes, I'm pretty sure a lot of them, that probably took them back to their parents. And they thought about their mama, their father. Because I have coworkers. And I had these conversations with them too a while back, and they were like, "Yeah, oh yeah, Cuomo, he made it so that we gotta do something about my father-in-law. My father-in-law is in the nursing home and he's got dementia. And my sister, she doesn't want to take my father-in-law in. So what are we supposed to do? I can't bring my father-in-law to our house. There's not enough space. And we can't leave him alone. He might burn down the house." You know what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a lot of these people who are dealing with their own parents, demented parents, Alzheimer's, who have various forms of dementia, memory loss, confusion. A lot of these people saw Biden up there, and they haven't seen Biden by himself, unprotected. Because anytime you see Biden on television, there was always somebody protecting him. Like there was always somebody vouching for him. There was always somebody standing there leading him by the hand. Oh, come this way, sir. Come this way, Grandpa. And the sad thing is, when these people saw that, they said, shit, that's exactly how my father is. That's exactly how my mother, how my mom was right before the end. At this point, I personally feel that Biden is just like the 80-year-old uncle who refuses to put down the keys despite the fact that he's a danger to pedestrians. I've had family members, over 80, old family member who flipped fucking cars upside down driving and then want to blame somebody else. It's like, listen, Grandpa, this isn't anybody else's fault. We wanted to stop you from driving, but you wouldn't let us. We wanted to put you in an old folks home, but you wouldn't let us. And the reality is, at a certain point, you got to stop these people because they are a clear and present danger to pedestrians. But they refuse to give up their keys. Oh, well, as long as I can drive, you can't tell me I can't drive. I drive wherever I want to drive. Nah. We can't allow you to drive. Oh, well, you can't stop me. I got a right to drive. So at that point now, you have to count on the law itself to say, nah, you're not allowed to drive. It's like, if you can't read this sign from 20 feet away, nah, you're not allowed to drive. But if they somehow manage to be able to read that sign from 20 feet away, as far as I know, there's no cognitive test besides the actual driving test itself that makes it so that they're able to judge your response time and your decision making and all that. A lot of these people are basically ticking time bombs. They're out there and they're a clear and present threat to the public, and there's nothing you can do until they either leave the gas on and burn down your house, or they're driving around and they flip over a car and it falls on some children. There's nothing you can do. But now we saw it, and there's nothing they can do to walk it back. CNN can't tell you, oh, you didn't see that. Yeah, I saw it. No, we saw it. MSNBC, Rachel Maddow. Oh, well, Trump lied 700 times in 30 minutes. It's like, yeah, but I'm more concerned with the guy who's president right now, who has his finger near the nuclear launch codes and buttons and briefcase. I'm more concerned with that. No, but didn't you see Trump? He said that they were killing children in the 5th trimester. It was like, yeah, but that's not what I'm concerned with. I'm concerned with that dazed, confused old man that I saw who's supposed to be leading the country. So anyway, now that I've digressed enough, let me get to this story right here. Could Democrats replace Biden at the top of the presidential ticket? Now, as far as I've already said, the answer is obviously no. Biden has to look within himself and do the introspection to say, you know what, I'm too old for this shit. He's got to be like Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon. He's got to say, yeah, I'm too old for this. Who's revving that shit engine on that shit car out there? Anyway, he has to do the introspection. He has to say, I'm too old for this. I need to resign, and I need to let somebody younger take it over. He has to do that. He's the sitting president. There's nothing that you can do about the fact that he's the sitting president, because otherwise it looks like a coup d'etat. It looks like you're trying to rise up and take this man out of office by force. You know, the exact same thing that the Democrats claimed that Trump was trying to do on January 6th. You know, that, and I've said this a couple of times. I threw it in my community chat. These are the same people who are talking about protecting democracy. Yet these are the same exact people who want to make it so that I can't vote for somebody, i.e. Trump, by figuring out ways to try to get him off of the ballot. Oh, well, he can't be on the ballot if he's a convicted criminal. The Constitution never said that a convicted criminal can't be on the ballot. Oh, but he's an insurrectionist. He did January 6th. He can't be on the ballot. First of all, he was never charged with insurrection. He was never convicted of insurrection. Y'all spent all your time trying to turn, what was it? Campaign finance violations for Stormy Daniels. You spent all your time trying to turn that into 34 felony counts, instead of charging him with insurrection, which is what, if you really felt that he was an insurrectionist, you should have charged him with it. Even if you had charged him with it, the 14th Amendment doesn't mention the presidency. First of all, I would say that the 14th Amendment was written that way because they're like, wait a minute, if the president's in charge, how the fuck can he run an insurrection when he's already in charge? So that's my thinking. The Constitution, as it's written, I don't believe could have ever anticipated that things would get this far off the rails. However, it is a very, very strong framework that provides guidelines for how to proceed, even if things have gotten this far off the rails. For example, I don't believe the Constitution ever believed that you would have digital media and social media that would actively try to work against any specific campaigner by ignoring that person and not showing them. And not, like, I believe that, like, the Constitution, because even when it was written, they had newspapers back then. Did those newspapers cover all of the political dissent? Did they try to ignore individual people who were campaigning? Did they try to fill people's minds with hate and anger against one another? Of course they did. But I don't think the Constitution imagined that we get to this point right here where you'd have political parties working hand in hand with technocrats and the media organizations to cover up the truth or to hide the truth. I don't think that they imagined that this could get this out of hand. Fortunately, if you do follow the Constitution pretty much gives you a good framework for how do you proceed forward. There is a level of due process, for example, and that's what you're reading about right now. Okay, let me stop digressing. Could the Democrats replace Biden at the top of the ticket? A once politically far-fetched question. Not really. Can Joe Biden be replaced at the top of the Democrat Party ticket? Has taken on new urgency after Biden's halting debate. I like it how they use these words in order to amp up the fact that he did such a horrible job. Shocking, halting, frightening. It's like you can put any of these words in there. I love it. Thursday night against former President Donald Trump. The short answer is yes, but that's assuming Biden decides on his own to step aside. But if Biden decides not to step aside, the short answer is probably no. Either way, the process would be complicated and would open the door to political upheaval between now and when Democrat delegates gather to vote for a nominee at their convention in August. So technically, the important date to look forward to is August 6th, I believe. By then, those Democrats have to actually tell you who their nominee is or who they're giving these votes to, the delegate votes. What is this? Biden has the power to leave the race. He has the power to resign, we can say, and release all the pledged delegates he has accumulated. In fact, okay, let me rephrase what I just said. Most people are calling for Biden to resign from office and to simply step aside. Now, we have no idea what he's going to do, but it appears that Jill Biden and it appears that a lot of these Democrat sycophants on the left are telling him, no, you got to stay in. And there's a simple reason for that. It's because they know that if Biden is not running, that whoever they put up there against Trump is going to lose in November. And the reason for that, which you also have to think about, which I haven't really heard them talk about, is Biden's record in office. We are currently suffering from the highest level of housing inaffordability that I've never seen anything like this. I'm 42 years old, born in the 80s. When I was younger, buying a house was just something you did. You got a job. You worked a job, you either work the job alone or you get married, and you just buy a house. Right now, you're looking at an entire generation, Generation Z, and they have no hopes of being able to buy a house. Just think about that for a second. You have an entire generation that has no hopes of even being able to buy a house. I do not blame Biden for the high interest rates. That is the Federal Reserve that set those interest rates high. And they did that, from what I saw, as a result of the Ukraine-Russia war. When it was 2021, as soon as Russia invaded Ukraine, they raised up the interest rates. Now, why did they do that? I have no idea. But they did it then. Now, some people might argue it had nothing to do with the war and that they did that because they printed too much money during COVID 2020. Yeah, you could argue that, but the bottom line is they raised up these interest rates, and now they claim it's to fight inflation, but the reality is you can't afford no house. The same house that I bought in 2018 for less than $300,000? If you tried to buy this house right now from under me, you'd have to pay about $600,000. So the housing inaffordability, the land inaffordability, you're suffering from high cost of living. I heard somebody was saying to me, they were like, oh yeah, if we saved your receipt from Amazon and you went back to repurchase those exact same items from 2 or 3 years ago, it would cost you more than twice as much. How you digitally purchase an item again. Like even on eBay, I can do that. Like if I buy something, you can push the button that says buy it again. Only this time now the interest rate and the cost of it is higher. So anyway, the car market is a mess. Insurance markets are a mess because of the high cost of living. Everything is just so much more expensive. They tried to say, oh, Bidenomics, and Bidenomics is working. That didn't last too long. That fizzled right out because everybody was like, wait a minute, Bidenomics? I can't fucking afford to live. It's the economy, stupid. So my thinking is the Democrats think that all they got to do is just prop somebody else up. But the problem that that person is going to have is that they have to run against Biden's last 4 years. To have to run against that, what are you going to do? Are you going to try to stand there and blame Trump for the last 4 years of Biden? Are you going to try to say that, oh, yeah, well, Biden got everything under control? Oh, well, except the housing market and the car market and the student loans and this, that, and the other. But that was all Trump's fault. It's like, wait a minute. How are you blaming the guy, the last guy? How are you blaming him for you? Like, that doesn't compute. Like, and I swear to God, if you talk to these leftists, it's shocking. Like, these people are stupid, and the level of lack of intellectual curiosity, the shit that these people say is incredible. I've argued with people who, Obama did great. The only problem was Bush's presidency. Okay, fine. So let me accept the fact that the economy collapsed at the end of Bush's presidency. Okay, fine. Yeah, Obama did great. Now, most people would tell you, yeah, a lot of those Obama years, we were basically in recession. The same recession that the government would lie about now, we were in it then. But then after Obama, so let's just say this. Obama did so well that people said, yeah, you know what? We need to elect Donald Trump. So if Obama's 8 years was so good, then why the hell would they elect Trump? You have to think about these questions. So with Trump in there, obviously the elephant in the room now becomes COVID. So with COVID, they tried to blame Trump for COVID, and they're literally trying to blame him for it. But what they'll say is that all of the jobs lost was Trump's fault, but that all the jobs gained was Biden's victory. It's like, wait a minute, how are you doing that? But these people are full of shit and they're liars. That's the problem. That's the problem that they have, and now they've been caught. So anyway, what does this say? It says the prospect raises many questions. Should Biden decide to drop out of the race, could he compel his delegates to support a candidate of his choosing? No. He could certainly endorse a successor, and that would count for something. But once the delegates are free, they are free. Loyalty to Biden, which runs deep, does not automatically extend beyond him. And there could be a floor fight over who would emerge as the nominee, highlighting festering ideological divides in the party and potentially weakening a future Democratic candidate heading into the fall campaign. This is what I'm saying. You can't run on Biden's last 4 years. His last 4 years, I don't give a shit what MSNBC is saying. I don't give a shit what any of them say. His last 4 years have been a disaster. To quote what something Trump might say, a disaster. An unmitigated disaster. They've been abysmal. If you don't want to use the word disaster, we could say abysmal. Okay? So anyway, what would that mean for Vice President Kamala? I love how Trump always says Kamala. Kamala. Like, I love the way he fucking says that shit. That guy's insane, man. I love it. Harris would most likely be one of probably a half dozen candidates vying for the presidential nomination, but her standing in the party is questionable after what many have seen as a rocky tenure and weak poll numbers. She also would not be assured the number 2 spot on the ticket, even if she wanted it, should Biden be replaced. Kamala Harris has to be the vice president who you've seen and heard from the least. Like, it's amazing, that, even Al Gore took on the environment and everything, and you could say he was crazy and he was full of shit, but the bottom line is he has a whole movie to show for his vice presidency. He's got an inconvenient truth. And you can debunk it, you can say he's wrong and everything. Now, most people right now, even worldwide, I would say believe he was right. But the bottom line is the scientists can try to debunk it, this, that, and other, but at least he has something to show. Can you please answer me this simple question? What does Kamala Harris have to show for the last 4 years? It's a serious question. Does she have a movie? Does she have an audiobook? Like what does she have to show? And I'm not talking about some ghost written, something like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm like, what have you done? I honestly have no idea what her personal project was. I don't know. I really don't know. I can look back and think about Michelle Obama when she was going after school lunches. And I mean, granted, I disagreed with that entirely, but at least I know what she was doing. And she wasn't a vice president. What was Joe Biden doing while Obama was in office? I can't think of what I honestly don't know. Did he have a project? So anyway, it says, what is the timeline for the decision? If there is one upside for Democrats about Biden's disastrous debate performance, it is that it happened in June rather than weeks before the election when debates traditionally have been held. There is time to act, which would not have been the case had this unfolded at a debate in September. The nominating convention in Chicago opens August 19th, but the party approved rules to hold a virtual roll call before August 7th to work around an Ohio law that required all presidential candidates to be legally certified by that date in order to appear on the November ballot. So we're basically talking about a 5-week window. So they've got 5 weeks to do something about Biden. Today is July 1st, in fact. A total of 3,934 pledged delegates will vote on the first ballot. If a candidate receives a simple majority of 1968, that person will be the nominee. Should Biden resist pressure to step aside, is there a way the party could move unilaterally to replace him? Well, never say never. There would seem to be a bit of wiggle room in the party's official rules. All delegates to the National Convention pledged to be to a presidential candidate shall, in all good conscience, reflect the sentiments of those who elected them, they read. So in theory, note the words "in all good conscience." It would appear that the Democrat convention could vote for someone else. But this is not the Democrat Party of 1968, when the rules permitted party bosses to impose their will. In fact, the rules were rewritten after that specifically to make the party a much more free-flowing organization. This is not the old days, said Elaine Kamarck, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, a Washington think tank, and an expert on convention rules and procedures. There is no such thing as party leaders. There's no people with the power to take away this nomination. The only way that could happen without Biden's consent is if a majority of about 4,000 delegates decide that he shouldn't be the nominee, that they had somebody better. Who might be considered to replace him? Here we go. In addition to Harris, in addition to Kamala, there is Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Now, let me tell you something right now. When I hear them talking about Gretchen Whitmer, I have no idea who that is. I'll be perfectly honest. I have no idea who that is. When I hear her name, her face does not pop into my memory because I honestly have no idea what she looks like. The answer is no. Gretchen Whitmer cannot run on Biden's last 4 years. She can't. She'd lose. Okay, who else? Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. I have no idea who that is either. California Governor Gavin Newsom, I call him. I call him Gavin Newsom. Okay, guess what, Gavin Newsom? California is a shithole. The people mostly want to leave California. You've literally, with your policies, have destroyed what we knew of California. When we thought California, we used to think about Hollywood and the sign and the Hollywood. Now you go to California, this tent city, homeless people shitting in front of the farmers. Like, you go, there's homeless people everywhere, and these people, we've seen them on videotapes. I've seen it on Facebook, I've seen it on Instagram, where they have the security camera, and these people are literally shitting right inside the stores on the floor. Or outside the store, they're leaving these big piles of shit, just like Amber Heard. Like I'm talking about big coils, like as if they were carnivorous dinosaurs. Junkies everywhere. Heroin, fentanyl, you name it. Gavin Newsom's, it's not going to happen. I know the Democrats want to believe that they can simply swap in Gavin Newsom, but here's your problem. Your minority voters ain't going for it. I believe Biden's largest supporters are white women and black women and feminized men. These are the same people that are constantly complaining, oh, this pick isn't diverse enough, blah, blah, blah. So the reality is, oh no, they will absolutely jump ship. First of all, you've already got a huge problem with your Muslim and Palestinian supporters. You already have a huge problem there because they've openly been saying, yeah, we're not voting for you. You have a big problem with the squad. You got Tlaib and you got Ilhan Omar. And they, no, Biden, you haven't done nothing, blah, blah, blah. And their constituents are openly in rebellion against you. The Democrat Party is about to fly apart. It's about to eat itself like a snake. They're going to start fighting like wolves, and they're going to eat each other. You remember the Joker, and he said it's like, yeah, when the chips are down, these people will eat each other. You remember that? Yeah. I love the movie references. But anyway, so what happens if Biden were to withdraw after the convention? The Democrat National Committee's official procedures for the convention adopted in 2022 give the committee the authority to choose a new candidate if either member of the ticket, the presidential or vice presidential nominee withdraws or dies. Ooh. The party's national chair, Jamie Harrison, would consult with Democrat leaders in Congress and in the Democrat Governors Association and make a report to the DNC. But the nearly 4,000 committee members themselves would have the final say. So right there, they're telling you what it is. They're saying, listen, these committee members are ultimately, unless the vast majority of them turn on Biden, or unless Biden has the introspection to say, listen, I'm too old, I can't deal with this no more, and I'm just gonna bow out and let somebody else roll. Let somebody else take this. It's just they're doomed. These you got to understand. First of all, I think it can't be said enough that CNN and MSNBC lied to us, and they propped up Biden, and they ignored this man's cognitive decline, leading the public to believe that everything was okay. Now, anybody who actually has 2 eyes and 2 ears, who is able to see this cognitive decline, was immediately demonized and called a right-winger and a Trump supporter and a Fox News watcher, when we all saw it with our own 2 eyes and heard it with our own 2 ears. When we heard Biden making these gaffes, when we saw Biden doddering around, they tried to make us seem like there was something wrong with us. But once again, now everybody has seen it for themselves. So then the question is, what are you going to do about it? This is one of my favorite stories. It's an older folktale. The Emperor's New Clothes. And obviously, if you know the story, you know exactly where I'm going with this. So it says, many years ago, there was an emperor who was so excessively fond of new clothes that he spent all his money in dress. He did not trouble himself in the least about his soldiers, nor did he care to go either to the theater or the chase, except for the opportunities then afforded him for displaying his new clothes. He had a different suit for each hour of the day, and as of any other king or emperor, one is accustomed to say, he is sitting in council. It was always said of him, the emperor is sitting in his wardrobe. Time passed merrily in the large town which was his capital. Strangers arrived every day at the court. One day, two rogues calling themselves weavers made their appearance. They gave out that they knew how to weave stuff of the most beautiful colors and elaborate patterns. The clothes manufactured from which should have the wonderful property of remaining invisible to everyone who was unfit for the office he held, or who was extraordinarily simple in character. So basically what they're saying was, if you're stupid and not smart, you can't see these clothes because you're not smart enough to see them, basically. These must indeed be splendid clothes, thought the emperor. Had I such a suit, I might at once find out what men in my realms are unfit for their office, and also be able to distinguish the wise from the foolish. This stuff must be woven for me immediately. So basically, if you're a stupid person, you can't see these clothes. So the emperor said, if I had clothes like this, I'd be able to see who's stupid because they won't be able to see the clothes I'm wearing. Okay, just helping out. And he caused large sums of money to be given to both the weavers in order that they might begin their work directly. So the two pretended weavers set up two looms and affected to work very busily, though in reality they did nothing at all. They asked for the most delicate silk and the purest gold thread, put both into their own knapsacks, and then continued their pretended work at the empty looms until late at night. I should like to know how the weavers are getting on with my cloth, said the emperor to himself, after some little time had elapsed. He was, however, rather embarrassed when he remembered that a simpleton or one unfit for his office would be unable to see the manufacture. To be sure, he thought he had nothing to risk in his own person, but yet he would prefer sending someone else to bring him intelligence about the weavers and their work before he troubled himself in the affair. All the people throughout the city had heard of the wonderful property the cloth was to possess, and all were anxious to learn how wise or how ignorant their neighbors might prove to be. I will send my faithful old minister to the weavers, said the emperor at last, after some deliberation. He will be able to see how the cloth looks, for he is a man of sense, and no one can be more suitable for his office than he is. So the faithful old minister went into the hall where the knaves were working with all their might at their empty looms. What can be the meaning of this, thought the old man, opening his eye very wide. I cannot discover the least bit of thread on the looms. However, he did not express his thoughts aloud. Why? Because he knew that he'd be considered stupid if he wasn't able to see the clothes. The impostors requested him very courteously to be so good as to come near their looms, and then asked him whether the design pleased him, and whether the colors were not very beautiful, at the same time pointing to the empty frames. The poor old minister looked and looked. He could not discover anything on the looms for a very good reason. There was nothing there. What? Thought he again. Is it possible that I am a simpleton? I have never thought so myself, and no one must know if I am a simpleton. Nobody must know. Can it be that I am unfit for my office? No, that must not be said either. I will never confess that I could not see the stuff. Well, Sir Minister, said one of the knaves, still pretending to work, You do not say whether the stuff pleases you. Oh, it's excellent. I love it. It's beautiful. It's amazing, replied the old minister, looking at the loom through his spectacles. This pattern and the color, oh my God, this is the greatest colors and patterns I've ever seen. I've never seen anything this beautiful. This is amazing. Thank God I'm a smart person and I'm fit for office, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to see this shit. This is beautiful. Okay, so we shall be much obliged to you, said the impostors, and then they named the different colors and described the pattern of the pretended stuff. The old minister listened attentively to their words in order that he might repeat them to the emperor, and then the knaves asked for more silk and gold, saying that it was necessary to complete what they'd begun. So basically, these people are taking the emperor for all his money, and they're not making anything, and the clothes that they are supposed to be making, you can't see them because you're not smart enough. So if you admit that you can't see them, that must mean you're an idiot. Okay, so that's big. I'm going to speed up a little bit. You can read the rest of the shit yourself. But I want to get to the good part. Okay, so how is this, said the emperor to himself. I can see nothing. This is indeed a terrible affair. Am I a simpleton, or am I unfit to be an emperor? That would be the worst thing that could happen. Now, Matt, well, hold on just a second. Am I fit for office? Am I fit to be president? Am I too old to be president? No, surely I'm not. Surely I'm not too old. Surely I'm not unfit. CNN told me I'm not unfit. MSNBC told me I'm fit for office. So surely it's not me. Oh, the cloth is charming, said he aloud. It was my complete approbation. And he smiled most graciously and looked closely at the empty looms, for on no account would he say that he could not see what the two of the officers of his court had praised so much. His officers of his court were praising what they saw. So you know what? You know who the officers of your court are? Your cabinet. So CNN told you you're fit. MSNBC told you you're fit. Your cabinet told you you're fit. Think about that for a second. All his retinue now strained their eyes, hoping to discover something on the looms, but they could see no more than the others. Nevertheless, they all exclaimed, "Oh, how beautiful! These are amazing clothes! This is beautiful! This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen! You're definitely fit for office! And since I'm fit to keep my job, I can honestly say these are the most beautiful clothes I've ever seen," despite the fact that they were looking at looms that had nothing on them. So you got the king lying to himself, the cabinet lying to the king, or the president, I should say. You got the Secret Service agents, they're just there to do their job, which is to keep somebody from putting a bullet in you. So they're not really, it's not their job to say whether they see anything or not. You got CNN, MSNBC, everybody's on the same page. You got the whole Democrat National Convention saying that you're wearing the most beautiful clothes they've ever seen. Just think about that for a second. I think Trump needs to stand up there and tell this story, and he needs to tell it in his own way, because I'm pretty sure he'd do a very good job of telling the story. So anyway, magnificent, charming, excellent resounded on all sides, and everyone was uncommonly gay. Look at this. It says this. It actually says exactly what I'm reading. Look at that. It says magnificent, charming, excellent resounded on all sides, and everyone was uncommonly gay. The emperor shared in the general satisfaction and presented the impostors with the riband of an order of knighthood. These guys lied to you, convinced you that you're wearing the most beautiful clothes ever. They gave you nothing. They took your money, and you're ready to make them knights. Now, here in America, I think the equivalent of knighthood is giving you like the Freedom Medal or something, the Medal of Freedom, or the Because we don't have knights, but you have, medals of freedom and medals of honor and all that shit. Yeah, the president bestowed upon the imposters the Medal of Freedom. Okay, to be worn in their buttonholes and the title of Gentleman Reavers. So they even got a title out of this. How nice. Okay, let me see. See, cried they at last, the emperor's new clothes are ready. And now the emperor, with all the grandest of his court, came to the weavers, and the rogues raised their arms as if the act of holding something up. They couldn't see the clothes. The clothes weren't there. They didn't exist. But they all could not admit that they were lying to themselves, because it would mean that they were unfit for their jobs. They'd lose their jobs. So what do? They go to the next level of holding up these invisible clothes that don't exist. Think about that for a second. Think about that the next time Rachel Maddow, oh yeah, well, Donald Trump lied 595 times. Biden, Biden's not as quick as he used to be, but, Donald Trump's a liar. He lied 797 times in 30 minutes. Just think about that for a second. I hope somebody emails Trump and tells him, listen, you need to stand there and tell this story to your next crowd. Because this story needs to be told. Because a lot of people don't know it. You'd be surprised. A lot of people don't know this level of literacy. But anyway, the whole suit is as light as a cobweb. One might fancy one has nothing at all on when dressed in it. That, however, is the great virtue of this delicate cloth. Yes, indeed, said all the courtiers, although not one of them could see anything of this exquisite manufacture. If your imperial majesty will be graciously pleased to take off your clothes, we will fit on the new suit in front of the looking-glass. The emperor was accordingly undressed, and the rogues pretended to array him in his new suit, the emperor turning round from side to side before the looking-glass. How splendid his majesty looks in his new clothes, and how well they fit! Everyone cried out, what a design! What colors! These are indeed royal robes! There's nothing wrong with him at all. His cognitive abilities are perfect. He's doing fine. He's fit as a fiddle. You're a white-winged plant. You've been watching Rush Limbaugh. You've been listening to Patriot XM. You're a Trump supporter. You must be a January insurrectionist if you can't see these clothes. If you can't see these clothes, you're a racist. Do you get where I'm going with this? Okay, let's keep on going. The canopy, which is to be borne over your majesty in the procession, is waiting, announced the chief master of ceremonies. I am quite ready, answered the emperor. Do my new clothes fit well? Asked he, turning himself round again before the looking-glass in order that he might appear to be examining his handsome suit. The lords of the bedchamber who were to carry his majesty's train, that's that long part behind it's like his it's not a cape, but it trails the rest of the suit that he's wearing. So anyway, as if they were lifting up the ends of the mantle and pretended to be carrying something, for they would by no means betray anything like simplicity or unfitness for their office. So once again, these people literally have to carry the train of his cloak that doesn't exist, because otherwise they might be seen as unfit for office because they can't see it and they can't feel it because it's not there. Think about that for a second. So you have an entire office, cabinet, media agency. All of them are sycophants. All of them. Just think about that for a second. So now the emperor walked under his high canopy, in the midst of the procession, through the streets of his capital, and all the people standing by and those at the windows cried out, "Oh, how beautiful our emperor's new clothes! What a magnificent train! There is to the mantle, it's so gorgeous, it's lovely, it's beautiful. His cognitive abilities are perfect!" Certainly none of the emperor's various suits had ever made such a great impression as these individual ones. But the emperor has nothing at all on, said a little child. The emperor is walking around buck naked. Wait a minute, wait. You know what? The emperor has no protection at the debate. He has nobody lying to you at the debate. He has no protection. Naked and lacking protection. I guess you could consider those the same things, couldn't you? Listen to the voice of innocence, exclaimed his father, and what the child had said was whispered from one to another. But he has nothing on! At last cried out all the people. The emperor was vexed, for he knew that the people were right, but he thought the procession must go on. And the lords of the bedchamber took greater pains than ever, to appear holding up a train, although in reality there was no train to hold. That is the story of the emperor's new clothes. This is a long-ass story. Jesus. But I think you get the point. Imagine someone who is surrounded by yes men and sycophants and people with ulterior motives and people with ambition who are so, what's a good word? These people are so dedicated to the bullshit that they refuse to tell you that there's something wrong with you. Just think about that. So that's the story. I chose this beautiful story because I've been going around on all of these comment sections basically typing, the truth is out, the emperor has no clothes. So that's basically why I shared it. I hope Donald Trump hears this, and I hope he himself will tell this story at one of his rallies. Because you could literally squeeze this out for about 30 minutes. If you know it that well, you can literally get about 30 minutes out of that crowd. And while you're this is what gets me. Why would you go up against somebody who can literally filibuster for hours? Biden and Trump were at that bullshit debate for, they claim, 90 minutes. But you and I both know Trump. Whether he's telling the truth or not, that man can stand there and tell stories for hours. He could do the same shit I'm doing right now. That's how I recognize. See, what did Michael Douglas say in Wall Street? He says a fisherman always sees another fisherman from afar. I always knew exactly who Trump was. I always knew it. I saw that dude from far away. I was like, wait a minute. I recognize this fucking guy. Y'all gonna have some serious trouble beating this guy. There's no way you're beating this guy. Not with your rules. You're not going to no debate and having rules with this guy. He knows how to beat you. He doesn't give a shit about your rules. You ask him a question, he ignores your question, and he filibusters what he wants to talk about for the whole time limit. MSNBC and CNN, why didn't they fact check him? Why didn't you stop him from talking? Because you couldn't. You set up the rules, CNN, and you made it so you couldn't stop this guy from talking. You did this to yourself. I have to wonder, did CNN set Biden up? And honestly, yeah, they really kind of did, even if they didn't mean to. For them to put Biden in that chamber with Trump, that was kind of like me taking a hamster and putting him in an aquarium that has a rattlesnake in it. I already know what's going to happen. That rattlesnake is going to bite that hamster, and the hamster's going to get eaten. And that's it. That's just it. They set this man up. Maybe they should be credited for doing this. Because see, I could play devil's advocate. I could look at both sides of this coin. The American people deserved to know that their emperor had no clothes. But as long as everybody kept saying, "Oh, these are beautiful clothes. Oh, that gold is wonderful." As long as everybody was on the same coherent wavelength, you would have the truth would have never come out, or it would have come out way too late, and you wouldn't have had a chance to actually absorb it properly. What CNN did was CNN in this story. CNN was basically the child that called out that, wait a minute, the emperor ain't got no clothes on. This guy's naked. And after CNN said it aloud or showed it aloud, everybody else is like, wait a minute, I think this dude's right. This guy's got no clothes on. And now the secret's out. The truth is out. The emperor has no clothes. Man, this is a beautiful story. You know, we have folk tales, we have stories for like everything. We have sci-fi movies, we've got television series, we've got folk tales, we've got biblical, we've got everything. Like fables, we've got it all. It's like if you look back long enough, you can find a story that literally explains everything. Like literally explains everything. Unfortunately, I fear for Generation Z and I fear for Generation Alpha. They don't have parents telling them these bedtime stories and shit. They don't have that. A lot of them, their mom is drunk, their father's in jail, their mom is out getting her groove on. She's at a party, she's at a club, she's half naked, she's screwing like 10 guys, and you got like different baby fathers and all that. The father's out there selling drugs. The father might be out there making crystal meth to sell to the trailer park. I feel bad for these kids who don't have people reading them these stories. I feel worse for the kids who grow up and they don't learn any of this stuff. They don't hear any of this stuff. They're on fucking TikTok, doom scrolling, and not learning anything. But when you learn enough of these fables, these stories, these fairy tales and all this shit, when you learn enough of this, it's like you have a reference for everything. And the emperor's new clothes is exactly what the American public is facing right now. So the question ultimately is, now we know the American public are the people in the town square, and the American public, for the most part, half of them are screaming about how beautiful the clothes are because they think that they themselves will be considered stupid if they don't do it. But then there's that small percentage that is willing to say, wait a minute, this guy's naked. You see where I'm going with this. So the question is, what is the American public to do? Are you going to continue MSNBC, CNN? Are you going to continue Rachel Maddow, The View? Are y'all going to continue to talk about how beautiful the emperor's clothes are and why you should stand beside the emperor and praise the emperor and talk about how wonderful his cloak is? Are you going to continue to do that? Or are you going to join the growing number of voices that is calling out the emperor and saying, wait a minute, this guy ain't got no clothes on? I wish there was a constitutional law that says post a certain age, you're not allowed to be president anymore. The problem is every person is different people age differently, blah, blah, blah. Some people lose their faculties when they're in their 50s and 60s. Alzheimer's, it's possible for mental illness, Alzheimer's, dementia, it's possible for those things to be onset by the time you're 70, 60, 50. It's possible it is possible. We know it's possible because, we're seeing more and more studies done in Alzheimer's and dementia. But, I really think that we need another safeguard. Now, the Constitution does have a safeguard. We have the 25th Amendment. We put it in later in order to ensure that we don't have an infirm president who can't discharge the duties of the office. But at least we do have it. They can't right now invoke it because a debate wouldn't be something where you could say, wait a minute, this guy's crazy and we need to get somebody else. Like, it would have to be something that he does in office. Like, he would have to seriously embarrass us in front of a world leader, or he like if he like was on Air Force One and he's getting off Air Force One and he falls down the steps and hits his head or something, that's when you can invoke the 25th Amendment. If he has a heart attack, that's when you can invoke the 25th Amendment. Like, a debate, a bad performance at a debate isn't enough for us to all be able to say the emperor is naked. It takes a little bit more than that. But I am glad that that is there and it's waiting just in case we ever need to use it. But the question now becomes, again, the American public has a choice to make. Are you going to continue to say that the emperor looks great in his new clothes, or are you going to say, wait a minute, the emperor's naked? Which one are you going to do? CNN and MSNBC got caught saying that the emperor's clothes are beautiful. Fox has been, and to their credit, Fox has been screaming that the emperor is naked for like the last 3 or 4 years. In fairness. CNN and MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, and all of them, Lawrence O'Donnell, all these people, they've been saying the emperor's clothes are beautiful, and they've been saying that shit for the last 2 years, and now you realize they're lying. Now you realize that they didn't want to be called stupid, and they didn't want to be called unfit for their little media job, and they've been doing this for years. But the question is, what are you going to do? Are you going to say the emperor is naked? Or are you going to continue to praise the beauty of the emperor's invisible cloak? Got a big yellow TRX here. Big and yellow. That's pretty freaking cool. It's like you usually don't see, vehicles being sold in colors like that. A yellow truck. Normally people would laugh at some shit like that, but not that truck. Uh-oh. Are they having a car? What is this? Is truck meet? Uh-oh. They're either having a truck meet or a Trump rally. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It's the Trump rally. Oh, shit. It's the Trump truck rally over here. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Old Biden got some problems coming. Oh, man. Trump rally. And I think, what the funny thing is that this is New York. And the thing about it is, there's a lot of Trump supporters here, right? But then what's funny is a lot of these Long Islanders actually got screwed by Trump's policies. And I'm not afraid to say it because it didn't hurt me. What ended up happening was when he got rid of those mortgage tax deductions, if you were out here and you're in Long Island, chances are you're paying pretty freaking high property taxes, right? And even on regular houses, you don't even have to have that big of a house, and chances are your taxes are between $10,000 and $16,000 a year. So before Trump passed that mortgage tax deduction when he did his tax cut, these people were actually getting more money back on their taxes. Now, taxes, that's not the everything, because the reality was when Trump was in office, the cost of living was also a lot lower. So you weren't as worried about your taxes as much. But the thing about it is these people lost a lot of money every time they filed for their taxes if they live here in Long Island. Now, I always guessed that was because, Trump didn't give a shit about New York. And, that New York was voting for Hillary despite the fact we couldn't stand her. And the reality is New York City controls New York State's electoral votes for the most part. But now I'm wondering, considering the economy's gotten so bad, I'm wondering if Biden loses New York, because there's always a possibility he could. Because the thing about it is a lot of these people are hurting. First of all, a lot of these New Yorkers can't even afford to live here. That's the reality. I'm thankful that, I got my house, I got my ceiling fan, but I got all of that before Biden got into office. Once Biden got into office, it was damn near impossible to buy anything because house values shot up. And I should say that really started oh shit, another one. White TRX, oh my God, it's TRXs all day long. And none of these guys got the Ram bar. Why don't y'all have the Ram bar? If you don't have the Ram bar, I just look at it like it's incomplete. Now, it still looks good, but y'all should have the Ram bar. So anyway, a lot of these people got screwed here in New York. Like, I know in a lot of other states, they benefited from Trump's tax cuts. But here in New York, a lot of these Long Islanders, they got screwed. See, in New York City, you wouldn't have gotten hurt because your taxes were lower than $5,000 in average, right? If you're a business, your taxes are lower typically than about $10,000. Out here in Long Island, your property taxes alone tend to exceed $10,000 depending upon where you are. So out here, yeah, a lot of these people got screwed. Now, as far as the people who weren't homeowners who were just getting money back, oh yeah, they did. They got more money back on their taxes than like ever before. I remember that. Like when Trump was in office, I was getting like $2,000 or $3,000 more back on my taxes that I'm getting under freaking Biden. And part of that, I think, was because when Trump got in there, he got rid of the individual mandate from Obamacare. And I actually had friends who lost their health care because of that individual mandate, basically saying that your health care is insufficient, so you got to go back and you got to get a better health care. And a lot of people didn't like that. A lot of people were happy with what they were, what they had, and they didn't want to change. And the simple fact is, like, what bothers me? It's just like with the vaccine. First of all, the government has no right to force you to do anything. The government has no right to force you to put a vaccine in your body. Knowing the Constitution and knowing what the government's negative rights, the rights that they don't have, that should have never been allowed to happen. But then with that individual mandate, here's the thing. The government has no right to force you to buy health care. They have no right to force you to buy health insurance. They have no right. And they also have no right to interfere with your private contracts with private corporations that would hire you based on whether or not you've got some damn jab or whether or not you've got this health insurance. They have no right to interfere with any of that. Sure enough, what ends up happening is presidents push shit forward. The Congress lets them push that shit forward, doesn't challenge them, doesn't impeach them. And it takes a long time for the Supreme Court to come back and say, wait a minute, you can't do that. And that's the problem with America. It takes so long for the Supreme Court to finally come around and say, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that, that's unconstitutional, and strike it down. It takes so long that you think about all the people who suffer in the meantime because they were too chicken shit to come out and immediately said, no, you can't do that. It's like I'm giving stump speeches like I'm a politician. Look at this thing. I'm giving stump speeches like I'm a politician running for office. That is a big goddamn truck. I just happened to show up and look who's here. It's a Cybertruck. This is amazing. I haven't seen one of these things ever charging. Look at it, we got the Cybertruck. And I was always wondering how would the Cybertruck fit in one of these chargers. And now I get to see it in all its glory. The Cybertruck. Like, that shit is fucking awesome. Yeah, I haven't been here in a while because I've been using the new charger. So I just felt like stopping by because I was in the area. And sure enough, you got the Cybertruck. And my favorite park was opened. So sure enough, I got to use my favorite park. And I got here just in time. Amazing. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, so this should be interesting. Sit here and watch the Cybertruck.
You and I were talking about Singapore. We talked about that. Then all of a sudden there'll be a pause, and I'll say, the baseball is pretty. Just wasn't able to sort of follow. And I see it.
Yeah, I have an uncle like that. And you can't tell me that I'm not seeing what I'm seeing. MSNBC and CNN have been lying this whole time, and now they finally got caught. And you know what's funny? Exactly what I expected to happen happened. Yeah. Because and then what I think was so funny was they tried to handicap Trump, and it all backfired on them well, there's going to be no audience, and there's going to be no crowd, there's going to be no fact checking, there's going to be no, what is it? You can't speak if the light turns green,
Right,
and then
mute
all
your
of
mic.
that backfired on them. All of it. Like, I just think that is hilarious.
And now there's this talk they're going to put somebody else in there. And
Well,
this is-
legally,
this
they
is-
can't do that.
But this is more importantly, this is my point on this. You know what? I don't like being bamboozled. And I don't like being treated like a memorial. So you know what? At this point, you've lost my vote for this year. It's gone. I don't care who you put, because you've demonstrated yourself to be, quite frankly, insulting. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, the way I see it is, because anything can happen between now and November, but let's say Biden were to resign, Kamala Harris automatically swears in as president, right? The thing about it is she's just going to get destroyed in November. Nobody wanted her. Like, nobody likes her. She had no popular, and you know what's scary? When all of this started back in 2018, I personally thought she was going to be president. And I thought the women were going to support her. I thought, minority groups were going to support her. And then I realized, I was like, wait a minute, nobody likes her. She's not popular. But what's crazy is that Biden was forced to pick her as a vice president. And now, if anything happens to him, I become absolutely right in my analysis, but for the wrong reasons. And that scares the shit out of me.
Well, it's funny. This is a true story. So my wife and I we go to let's say we're not going. We go to Maine for a week in the summer.
Okay. Portland?
No, Algonquin.
Okay.
Which is south of Portland, about 45 minutes south of Portland. In any event, I'll never forget. So same year, summertime, we're sitting at this local bar, and a fella sits next to us, and we just start talking, chatting it up. And it turns out he's a reporter for, I think it was AP. I said, "Oh, what are you doing here, young guy?" He says, "Well, I just covered there was a rally, a presidential blah blah blah." I said, "So what'd you think?" This is God's honest truth. And I said, "What'd you think about?" He said to me, "I went to see Kamala. I'm figuring she's got to be, the favorite." This was that earlier, just when you were talking about it. So I said, "So what'd you think?" He says, "Well, Kamala was completely unimpressive." And I said, "What'd you think about Biden?" He says, "He looks old." This is 2018. 2018. That was his exact quote, and I never forgot it. I never forgot.
Well, he was 79 then. So my first thought was, it's like, wait a minute, this guy is old already. How's he going to sit in office for 4 years or even 8 years? How's he going to do that?
Well, I will say this though: there's old and then there's old. Nope. You see, the thing is, I do believe there are people. I have a lawyer, a friend of mine. He's 90, and I got to tell you, sharp as a tack.
Sure, it's done.
So it does happen. Everybody's different. But you're right. You get into your 80s, and the reality is it catches up to you. No question about it. Now, some people handle it very well. He didn't happen to. It's interesting. You're like a science kind of guy. I can tell. Somebody was interviewing a neurosurgeon, and in neurosurgery, apparently there's a saying: once the brain hits the air, and they get it wrong. Once the air hits the brain, you're never the same. So conceptually, neurosurgeons are aware that when you do surgery, Biden had 2 brain aneurysm surgeries. So this guy was being interviewed, and he said, "Look, there's no guarantee, but that certainly makes it more likely that he's going to fall victim to this kind of dementia and this kind of problem." And so it was interesting to me. But I think it's, to be honest with you, what I think about his wife, and I think as a human being, how do you do that to someone you love? How do you do
But
that?
you know what? See, the sad thing about it is they've backed themselves between a rock and a hard place. If your hatred is strong enough for Trump that nobody else can be allowed to, or you can't allow Trump to win, if you hate him that much that you're willing to cheat, if you hate him that much that you'll stop at nothing. So they give a fuck about Biden. They'll keep that man there if he was a skeleton. They could care less. As long as that skeleton can discharge the office, they will keep him right there. But that's how strong their hatred is.
And conversely, I'll stick into your point. Conversely, the moment they believe they have a better opportunity without him, they'll throw him to the wolves.
I think at this point, first of all, the DNC, there's nothing they can do. Because at this point, they can't pull the 25th Amendment on him because it would look like a coup d'etat. So they can't do that. The only thing they can hope is that he looks within himself and says, I'm too old for this shit, and I got to get out of here.
Well,
and if he resigns, that's the only way out. There's nothing they can do.
And this goes back to my father. My father was one of the happiest men I ever knew, truly. And he died last year at 89. But one of the happiest guys I ever knew. And a happily married guy. Okay? I'll never forget, as he was going through this process, he became very, for lack of a better word, stubborn.
Yeah.
Where even those people, myself included, around him could sit him down and say, Dad, I think it would be a really good thing if we, took the keys of the car, we're going to get you this one. Absolutely not.
And it's funny that you said that, because that's exactly what I was thinking. When you deal with an old man who says, yeah, I refuse to stop driving, if they're to the point with, oh no, I refuse, I won't let other people, push me around and do this and that, I'll drive. And if you can't get an old man to stop driving, then that tells you right there that his arrogance is at a whole nother level. So the only thing you can do is hope that the law and the police are there to stop him and say, yeah, guess what? If you can't read that sign that says Tesla from 20 feet away, you're not allowed to drive. And that's the only way to stop these people. So the way I see it is, we almost need a constitutional convention that says, if you're between the ages of 35 and like Social Security age, like 65, those are the only ages you're allowed to be president. But because the Constitution itself doesn't place limits on that, we're basically screwed. Now, we can always go back, but the Democrats and Republicans will never let that happen, because if you open up those books, neither side will allow you to close them. They'll try to force through abortion. Oh yeah, well, we need to have a right to abortion. That'll be the next thing, because see, that's what they can't figure out now. They have no right to abortion, but if they have a constitutional convention, yeah, you could push that in. You could say, yeah, there's a right to abortion, right? But right now, there is no right to abortion. Once you open up those books, they can, well, you're not allowed to have guns anymore. Yeah. No, you can't do that. But they will not. So what the Democrats will do is they will continue to make life miserable in these large states. We will continue to leave these states and move to states that don't tax our pensions, and we will gradually shift our politics to those states, and the Electoral College will suddenly turn from red to purple and then to blue. And that's their strategy. I'm a chess player. I pay very close attention to what these people do.
Now, I could be wrong, but I think you're black.
Yes,
all right.
I am. I don't know what tipped you off. I don't know what tipped you off.
But there's a lot of talk, as you know, about the black vote, which went what? 87%.
You have no idea how much I hate hearing them talk.
But you hear the talk, and the numbers are, according to the numbers, like 87, 90%, voting for Biden. Do you?
And it's mostly women. Mostly black
women. Do you believe
women.
there's any change in that?
Absolutely. Black men, a lot of them are shifting towards Trump. It's mostly black women who support Biden.
Why is that?
Well, because if I stand up there and promise to pay your student loans, and you've wasted most of your life getting a worthless liberal arts degree or a PhD that you can't even use to make your money back, well, who are you going to vote for? I thought from history class, it was illegal to bribe people into voting. That's what I thought. That's what I was told. Now, we'll pay off student loans. We're going to give you tax credits for this and that. It's like, wait a minute, that's bribery. But where's the Supreme Court to say that's bribery? Where's the Congress to say that's bribery? Our problems are deep.
The Supreme Court already stepped in and said no, and Biden probably announced I can get around that.
And then I would say you're impeached. So what are you going to do now?
And you got Kamala.
Well, yeah. and if you try to go the same thing, I'll impeach you too. But see, this is the problem. You're bribing. First of all, I don't know if you've noticed, this country has a serious problem with women in general. You've probably noticed they're talking about young males, fewer and fewer of them enrolling to college. You're talking about fewer and fewer of them dating. You're talking about fewer and fewer of them having sex, fewer and fewer of them marrying. You're talking about more and more women purchasing houses by themselves and then going into foreclosure. You're talking about more and more young women getting higher education, but the problem is that higher education leaves them so far into debt that now they can't afford anything, and now what they'll do is they vote for the first person willing to say, I'm going to give you welfare. And that's across the board. Whites, blacks, Hispanics. It's across the board. So our problems are so deep, and now when you look, it's not just us. Feminism has done such a number. South Korea, they're talking about the fertility rates drop through the floor. They have this thing called the 4B movement: no sex, no marriage, no relationships, no children. Their birth rate's plummeting. China's has the same exact problem.
China's state mandate.
Well,
right?
theirs was caused by that one-child policy, but now even once it's reversed, the women refuse to marry these Chinese men. Japan has the same problem, and feminism is doing a job on the West in general. It's like you know who has the highest divorce rates? Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, right.
Ukraine and Russia. Now we're having their young men kill each other all day long. Where are these women going to find men? Where are they going to find any level of support? I guarantee you're going to see our population of like Eastern Europeans is going to skyrocket because most of them, they can't all go to Poland. They can't all go to Czechoslovakia. They can't go to Czech Republic. So no, feminism is doing such destruction to politics in general. What's the biggest thing? Abortion? Why? That shouldn't even be an issue.
I don't know why.
No,
I don't understand
why
that.
is because there's no law, and people believe that there's a law when there's not. You don't have a right to abortion.
Right, well, never did. There was never a constitution.
But they believe that they do.
No, there never was.
But they believe that they do. So how is this still an issue?
I don't know.
See, what I appreciate about Trump is Trump will stand there just like I will and say this shit. And you can fact check me all day long, call me a liar, I don't give a fuck. But the problem is the media is doing everything they can to keep people like me from being able to speak. Because God forbid you heard this shit coming out of me. The first thing you'd say, yeah, there's some racist Republican talking all this shit. And then you'd be like, wait a minute, no, well, he's not white. So no. The black vote, I think a large percent of the black male vote is going to Trump this year. I'm pretty sure. We've had enough.
Well, that's what the polls are starting to say, I guess, a little bit. But I was just curious, what your own thoughts were, because one of the things that impresses me more than anything else is the fact that, look, and I'm not a big fan of Trump personally, meaning it's not a guy.
He's extremely unpresidential.
It's not a guy I want to have, I necessarily want to have dinner with. I would. But I'll say this though. I will say this, and I tell my kids this all the time. I say, listen, we're not electing the Pope. You're not voting for your rabbi, your priest. You're voting for somebody to run a country in a very tough world. And you know what? Vote for the guy, regardless of whether you agree with his, the way he speaks all the time. Vote for the guy who can run the country the best, because this is a dangerous world. A dangerous world. And I think we've lived too long thinking or deluding ourselves into thinking it's not.
The problem ultimately is, which nobody wants to talk about, they don't like the way it sounds. The problem is, what you're dealing with is ultimately a civil war. What you're dealing with, it's not a shooting war. You hope nobody's shooting at each other. God knows we've seen enough mass murders. The problem is that you have ideologies that are competing, and the president is the avatar that you put to represent all of those ideologies. So wherein Trump represents an ideology, I hate to say that Biden does, because to tell you the God's honest truth, I don't feel he represents anything anymore. But the last time you had an ideology represented would have been Obama. So you could say Clinton, Obama, you could say Trump, they really represented a strong ideology. And you had the other side, regardless who was in office, constantly competing against that. Like, I believe WAR stands for We Are Right. I believe it's two ideologies competing. One of them has to go. It's Darwinism. That's what I personally believe, and the more I see, the more I believe it. And the problem is, again, these people hate Trump as if they're sworn enemies. And I totally understand why, but...
Well, I understand why on a personal level.
If you sit down watching MSNBC and CNN all day, yeah, you're going to hate him.
I had a conversation with my own brother yesterday, okay? And he said to me, well, I said, let me ask you a question. And I'm really just interested in your... Putting COVID aside, pre-COVID, for the 2.5 years that Trump was in office.
Nobody remembers
what horrible things befell your family or this country?
Like nothing.
And he couldn't come up with anything.
Damn near nothing.
Couldn't come up with anything. And I said, isn't that a pretty good barometer? Whether you like the guy, you don't like the guy, the fact of the matter is we were paying $2 for gas. The entire world was without wars. We were on our way to energy independence. things were looking really, really good when COVID hit. So, they just parrot this, well, he's an existential threat to democracy.
Which he's not.
Well, how is that?
Which he's not.
How is that? You want to talk about Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of the state of New York, who's no fan of Donald Trump, was on the Bill Maher show 2 weeks ago. I didn't watch the show, but I saw the clip. He said, as the former AG and the former Democratic governor of the state of New York, I'm telling you, no one whose name was not Donald Trump would ever have been prosecuted for the crime he was convicted of.
I agree.
No one.
I totally agree.
Now this is coming out of the mouth of Andrew Cuomo. And he further went on to say, he said, you want to talk about an existential threat to democracy? When you make people believe that the criminal justice system can be used if they don't like what you're saying or who you are, that's a threat to democracy.
I'll give you an easier one. Trying to take people's names off the ballot so I can't vote for them.
Yeah, well, they try to do
That in and of itself is a threat to democracy.
You hit the. You know what? I almost forgot.
That's
about
the
that.
easiest. No, but see, that's the problem. People have short memories.
Well,
My memory's long.
Yeah.
I got a real long
Colorado
memory.
did that, right?
Huh?
Colorado did that.
Oh, they were trying to. They were trying to use the 14th Amendment against Trump to say that if you were an insurrectionist, that you couldn't be allowed to run for president. Here's the problem. He wasn't ever charged with insurrection, and he was never convicted of insurrection. So are you telling me that somebody who doesn't have a law degree like me can understand that, but you people are actual trial lawyers, and y'all don't understand that?
Well, you do understand it, but it was exactly what you just said. It was designed to take him off the ballot. Period.
Yeah. They were willing to do anything they could.
That's a very good point.
And what's amazing to me is every single thing that they've attacked this man with, the guy keeps coming back. I believe personally, if he wins in November, what you're going to see the mother of all parties, presidential parties. You're going to see the mother of all presidential parties, right? Everybody's getting pardoned. Steve Bannon, January 6th. That's going to really stick it in their craw that he won. That right there, some of them might commit suicide. But the mother of all presidential parties, they're going to have to write a whole new textbook based on this guy alone. On his presidency alone, they're going to have to write a whole new textbook. That's how bad this is. And they're terrified. They're terrified.
But I think I'm dismayed by the fact that on both sides.
It's war. That's the problem. You see, you gotta think of it as war. I'm out to kill you and destroy you. You're out to kill me and destroy me. Once you think of it along those terms, yeah, then it makes more sense. But that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a war. You got these competing ideologies, and then one of them's got to go. And that's just what it is.
By the way, as in so many wars, even the victor winds up in the long-term loser.
Of course, it's a revolution. Nobody stays on top forever. Genghis Khan didn't stay on top forever. Chairman Mao didn't stay on top forever. Hitler didn't stay on top forever. It's a revolution. You keep getting taken down. And if you don't get taken down, you're just going to die of natural causes and you'll be out. Look at Fidel Castro. It's a revolution. That's all. But it's war nevertheless. And that's nobody wants to fess up to that, but that's what you're looking at.
I'm glad I ran into you.
Yeah, I knew I was going to see somebody.
But I wouldn't expect to see the same person in Westbury that I see in Massapequa necessarily.
Yeah, I was out here shopping and getting ready for the trip.
Now listen,
Get some socks.
I'm assuming I won't see you between now and then. Who knows? But if I don't, please have a great trip. All right, man. Have a great trip.
You too.
All right, enjoy. Try not to get too accustomed to the
Warm weather and the
warm
cheap
weather
food.
and the cheap food and the.
I'm going to be on that Japanese plane ordering sake the whole way.
I'm never aware of these things that ruin what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
It is more like I can understand how you can spend 10, 12 hours in there and not feel like
Oh, the seat they give you is like the back seat of the car. Yeah, you can stretch out, flatten the seat, all that. I can hardly wait. All right, you take care of yourself. All right, so Cybertruck still charging. Now this guy right here, this guy got the Kia Niro, I think it is, or the Hyundai. I think that's called a Hyundai Kona. So he's gonna come up here. He's gonna charge a little. The Ford F-150 left. I got this lady staring at me with her little Honda Civic right now. Yeah, man. It's like I be starting I'm gonna end up probably being a politician. I be starting like political freaking I be starting like pogroms and shit. Like when I'm just here at the charger, like starting some shit. You know, I'm up here trying to start a revolution at an electric charger. Cybertruck. Is that the Cyber Beast? I don't know. Wait a minute. I don't know if that's the Cyber Beast because there's not a lot of identifying marks. But yeah, that's the Cybertruck. It's kind of hard not to like the Cybertruck. The Cybertruck's just cool. Yep, that's me. I'm up here starting political rants at the electric charge. Like some people will be like, oh yeah, well I hate the electric charger. It's like you're just wasting time. It's like I'm not wasting time. I'm standing here starting a political revolution at the electric charger. You're just at home doing nothing. You're playing video games with your hands on your balls. Me, oh no. I love coming here. I fucking love it. It's fun. I've noticed that there's a lot of the brand new Tesla Model 3s coming in. And that right there tells you, just how good Tesla's sales actually are. Because like I'm seeing a lot of brand new cars, and they're making their market penetration. Tesla sales may slump week by week, month by month, but the reality is their sales are still doing pretty strong. And the beautiful thing is with these used Model 3s, like these old ones right there, the used ones, those will depreciate quickly, offering people who want a Tesla a chance to get a used one and not have to spend a fortune for it, because now they'll only be like, $25,000 tops. Maybe even you can get them cheaper than $20,000 depending upon how many miles are on them. And there are some people who don't need the tremendous ranges, because see, the problem, one of the things, some people make the mistake of believing is that everybody is determined to get a 300-mile range car. You have to remember, there's some people who may only drive 50 miles a week. A lot of these retirees, you see there's another one over there. A lot of these retirees, these people drive less than 100 miles a month in some cases. A lot of these people have a car just in case they need to get back and forth to the doctor. I have a family member right now, older man, basically as infirmed as Joe Biden is. And if he could get a Tesla Model 3 or a Tesla Model Y, he'd be the luckiest man on earth. And the reality is he only needs it just to go back and forth to the doctor, maybe to go back and forth to a couple of family members' houses. He doesn't need fucking 400 miles range. He doesn't need 300 miles range. He'd get by with a Nissan Leaf that does 100 miles, and he'd be happy as a clam because it has a nice interior and it's a decent car. A lot of people just don't understand, the bigger picture. Because I have to say, oh, is this guy back again? Because I tried to tell one of these guys, I said, listen, if you wait, I'll be gone in like 10 minutes. And the guy still left, and he went to another charger. So this guy's got that Blazer. He's got that Blazer EV. He's got that purple Blazer. Okay? And the thing about his Tesla stock is right now, it's like $200 a share. And, step over that. Yeah, I'm done in like 4 minutes. There was another guy here before you, and I tried to tell him to wait, but he said, oh, there's another charger a block away. I was like, yo, dude, I'll be done in 10 minutes.
These are fast chargers, right?
All of these, you have the 19 kilowatt upgrade, because your car is basically the same as mine. Yeah. Do you have the upgrade, or do you have the regular AC charger?
I don't have anything at home, but I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, well, bottom line is, when you plug in here, what percent are you at?
I'm at like 35.
It's going to take you about an hour. Give or take about 1 hour. Yeah, so you go
the
shopping.
Other ones, 8 p.m. Take you forever.
No. You must be talking about a level 2. These are DC fast chargers.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The level 2s.
Yeah.
Take you like the 8. And forget about using like an 8. The regular 110 line will be there for a week.
Oh, no. The 110 take you 2 days.
Yeah.
How you liking this car so far?
I love it.
You love it, yeah.
I actually was going to get, I was looking at that, that's what made me start thinking about it.
Uh-huh.
And then, but my buddy's manager of a shipping dealer, so I got this, and and I bought Trailblazer too.
Oh, Trailblazer,
And
okay.
got me a great deal on both, so I was like, oh,
And you got 2 years free EVgo?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much why when you pull up to these charges between here and Westbury, you're just gonna see a bunch of Cadillacs always charging because we got that 2 years free EVgo.
Yeah, otherwise, how much is, it's not a lot.
I tried charging this car during January, and I drive about 1,000 miles a month. It costs $180. And that's not bad, because my Jeep SRT eats up like $120 a week. So $180 for the month, not too bad.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, I'm unplug, and yeah, if you just pull up there, you'll be able to back in because I'm pretty much done.
All right, appreciate it.
All right, sure, nice to see you.
Good, yeah, loving the shirt too, brother.
Oh, thank you. All right, all right,
All right.
okay. You know, I'm starting to think I should be like a politician because I freaking love being out and just like, you know, doing that grassroots campaigning shit. I just love it. Maybe I should be a politician. I'm gonna run for office. Yeah, well, the other guy left. I told him not to leave. I said, listen, dude, I told the guy, I said, I'll be done in 10 minutes. I told the guy I'd be done in 10 minutes. Freaking guy said, oh, well, there's another charger like a block away. I'm like, what? No, there's not. But, you know, he left. You snooze, you lose. So I got my full charge. I'm at 307. Cause see what it is, I've been driving around and you know, when I leave this car here, I have to leave this car relatively fully charged. Now granted, they could always go to my house and charge the shit, but I would rather them not do that. You know, but I'm gonna leave this car with someone and they can just, you know, watch it and everything. So when I get back, you know, from the airport, you know, I can just easily jump in my car and leave. Why don't I see... Oh, there it is, yeah. Okay, so that was fun. That was fun. It's like everywhere I go, I'm starting conversations with people about that presidential debate. Like, I just can't help it. And I'm not arguing with anybody. I'm just having a nice conversation about how embarrassing that shit was. You know? I'd probably make a better president than Biden would. In fact, I'd probably be a better president than Trump or Biden, especially since I've got age on my side. I think right now, if America had a choice between Biden, Trump, or me, I think I could win. But right now, unfortunately, that's not the choice. You know, but I really believe if I could get up there, I think I would destroy both of them, and I think I'd win. And see, that's the funny thing. That's what the presidency is supposed to be about. The presidency is supposed to be anybody has a chance to get up there and for people to support them. That's what it's supposed to be. Now, just like everybody else, they want to put limits on the presidency. They want to make it so that you can't be president if you're a convicted felon. They want to make it so you can't be president if you're 85 years old. They want to make it so you can't be president if you're this or that. Everybody wants to put limits on the presidency. But the reality is, the spirit of the presidency is that you should just be able to get up there and people choose if they want to support you, and if they want to support you, they just support you. That's what it's supposed to be. Is it like that? Well, kind of, but you know, that's not what people want. People want to be able to cut people out of it because they don't like them. Look at this fucking Planned Parenthood. Who's paying for this? Huh? What did Trump say? Trump said that they were tearing out the little babies and killing them. Who's paying for this? Planned Parenthood. Huh? You tell me.
To be continued.